Welcome to the Garth Riley Show. Good to have you with us. Well, we're on location today at the Delta Hotel in North Markham and in Toronto, and Michelle Anton is my guest, and what a pleasure to have you. First of all, I mean, look at all those names you have associated with you of your experience. You worked with the Oprah show in a producer level. Halle Berry, you worked with Danny Bonaducci, one of my favorite guys. He must have been a wild man.
He was a wild and crazy guy.
Was he?
Yes.
Because I always thought he was in the Partridge Family, and then of course later on I thought, she worked with Danny Bonaducci.
He's very smart.
Well,
a lot of people don't realize he's self-taught, but he is like a genius.
He's
made some bad choices, though.
Yeah, but and they became really public.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden those demons just come back and grab people.
Yeah.
No one's without demons, though.
We're all on our own path. That's how I look at it.
You know, from your background of working in media, right,
mm-hmm.
that was what was that like for you? Did you enjoy it, or are you happy to be sort of distancing a bit?
Honestly, all my friends who are producers wish that if they could find something else they could do, they'd be doing it.
Why is that?
Because they don't have ownership in the project. As a producer for hire, you don't have the ownership that, let's say the executive producers for Ugly Betty have.
Right.
So it's a whole different game.
It's kind of like someone said to me, Garth, we're going to have you do a TV show, but you have to read a teleprompter and you have to read somebody else's words. And I was like, that's not happening.
Yeah, yeah.
And same for them, I guess, is that finally they just can't get any ownership. They can't get their teeth into it.
It's pretty hard.
What is it about you move from that to, well, let's just go back for a minute. I think one of the things I found fascinating in doing a little bit of background around you, and you complimented me, thank you, was, you've helped thousands and thousands of CEOs and presidents of companies, or hundreds rather, say hundreds, I don't want to say thousands, but that's the title of your book, hundreds of CEOs and presidents break past some barriers and beliefs. And a lot of people that are, especially that are trying to move ahead, would never think that a CEO or a president, like they're Teflon and kryptonite, like they don't have these issues, but you've worked with them. Tell me a little bit about that.
The biggest issue when you're a business person is that most of the time business people are working in the business and they actually need to work on it. So at the point that they really want to work on it, then that's a point where I can help them. The other thing is business people keep secrets. If things aren't going well, they don't necessarily want to go out and say to all of the people who do business with them, guess what, this is what's happening. And if you look at big business in any country, you'll see, Toyota,
yeah.
I think it's a great example. It's a horrible example, but
right.
It is an example of when you have problems, who do you go to? Where do you take the problems to? How do you solve those so that you can thrive?
But, so you take them to the CEO, they go to them, but a lot of people think that they have it all figured out. There is that sort of mystery that, they're in charge and they don't really need any help busting past barriers. And yet you work with them and you find that they have as many as perhaps others?
I don't think that in today's economy that people think that they have it all together.
That's fair.
People who don't have it together wish they knew how to, and people who have it together want to make sure that they stay on top. So it doesn't really matter which side of the street you're on. You still have to make sure that you're either getting more customers or keeping the ones you have and getting more customers.
It's really requiring some fancy footwork, more so than ever. One of the books that you wrote, which I was going to get to, of course, is The Weekend Entrepreneur, right? And the Weekend Entrepreneur, where you basically you say that anybody can get great cash, turn it great 101 ways to.
Can I give you a really quick example?
Yeah, go.
I was at a party. And there was a guy that I met, and for whatever reason, I never said anything about what I did, but for some reason, he's an attorney, he felt like I could organize his office. And I said, I could organize your office.
So hang on, he didn't know anything about you.
Right.
And he thought, how did it come up?
We were talking, and he said, my office is a mess. He said, you look like you'd be a great organizer. And I said, I am a great organizer. And he said, well, you know what? I really need someone to organize my office. Can you do it? And I said, absolutely. And so, we were just joking around. I gave him my number on a little piece of paper. I didn't have a business card that said I was an organizer.
Right.
And I followed up, and he just happened to live maybe 80 miles from my house, so that was pretty far. But I went to his office, I did an assessment, And I was just cracking up because my neighbor is an organizer. So I went to my neighbor and had her coach me on what I needed to do. And I organized his office, and I made $500 in one day organizing his office.
So is that what spawned the, and let me get the title right, the Weekend Entrepreneur, 101 great ways to earn extra cash. I want to get it right.
Yeah, great
101 great ways to earn extra cash. And you didn't use money, you used the word cash.
Exactly.
It's an exciting word, actually.
So I try things out. You know, I'm the type of person that if I hear something and it doesn't sound like it's true or possible, I'm going to want to find out because I'm skeptical.
Okay,
Yeah.
so a book was born.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a book was born out of this. And going through the book,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like the things that, for example, you're giving people hints on how to take a look at something and say, okay, there's an RV, your neighbor has an RV.
Yeah.
And they came in, and nobody wants to clean the RV after the holiday. So you could walk up to someone who has an RV and go to say to them, hey, I'll clean it for you for cash.
Absolutely.
And then the other one, there was another one I really loved, which was the, well, of course, the pooper scooper one, you know,
Yeah.
the dog poop, which
Yeah.
is natural. That's a good one. What's your favorite one? There's so many that, because not only do you talk about them in the book, but you actually then tell the story.
Okay, one of the ones that I like is a guy who is teaching children how to ride a bike and charging something like, you know, $75 an hour. And I was horrified because I thought, well, you're capitalizing on something that kids do need to learn how to ride their bike, and it would be a shame if they didn't learn because the parent is busy or tired or occupied or whatever, or can't ride, right?
Exactly.
And so it really is, to me, a look at what society is today, that a lot of parents are not hands-on, and a lot of things that are becoming businesses are growing out of a need that you can fill.
You wrote this book, co-wrote the book in 2006.
Yes.
You know, a lot of people had no idea that 2009 was around the corner.
Well, this is the difference. In 2006, people had hobbies and things that they liked to do, and they wished that they could turn that into, you know, a money-making venture. So it was something that they wished that they could do, and they were doing. It was just a nice idea.
Right.
Now, does the book stand up today? Absolutely, because now people have a need, you know? Some people are afraid they're going to be losing a job, or they've lost a job, or they can't make ends meet with the job that they have. They're lucky enough to have a job, but the job is a job just over broke.
Right.
And so they have the check coming in, but there's still a little bit too much week at the end of the week
Right.
that they can't pay for everything.
Especially with what happened in the mortgage issue in the U.S.
Especially.
That's been a heartbreak. I
Yeah.
have great friends in the U.S. and they're, you know, they just looked at me, they called me, and they're millionaires a year before, and trying now to float and not lose all their properties. Mm-hmm. So it's been a hard ride. What's it been like for the people that you've worked with? Because your industry also took a hit.
Well, it's bad because now the playing ground has been a little more leveled, and people are having to do things that they've never had to do before because they've always had and they've always been comfortable.
We're talking about resilience then, because they've always had to be comfortable with resilience. Going back for you, I loved your story, by the way, and I heard it on another interview, so I'm going to borrow it. And that was about your story about you had two inspirations: your mom and your dad, who wasn't even around when you were a kid.
Right.
Two inspirations. One was a dad who had basically left the scene, and one, your mom, was there. Tell me about that, because obviously that's led to some resilience in your life.
Well, my dad not being there made me very independent. And I didn't think that, somebody was going to come and save me or, do whatever you would expect your dad to do. And I had to deal with disappointment very early on in life. I had a dad who would say, I'll pick you up, and not show up, and I would wait.
How old were you when that happened?
My parents divorced when I was 6.
Yeah, so same. Okay,
Yeah.
so I went through the same thing.
Yeah.
So dad wasn't there, and then you
Yeah.
had to figure out
How to deal with disappointment, and how to be the one who didn't have the dad,
right.
and to be independent. And my mom worked 3 jobs. My mom's definitely always been my hero, and she recently passed away.
I'm sorry.
But the thing that I learned was that she was willing to make sacrifices and work 3 jobs so that she could send me to a private school and I could get dance classes on the weekend and, those kind of things.
Wow.